It looks like Creed 3 is going the distance. It's a franchise movie with big-name stars, but its box office take is still shattering expectations. How is this boxing epic punching so high above its weight? The first two Creed movies were released on Wednesdays over the Thanksgiving holiday weekend. Creed 3, by contrast, opened on a Friday over a weekend with no major holidays. Since it wasn't burning off demand with a Wednesday launch, it's no shock Creed 3 had a bigger 3-day opening weekend than its predecessors. What's impressive, though, is that Creed 3 left the 5-day hauls of the first two Creed films in the dust over just 3 days with its staggering $58.4 million take. Creed 2 made $56 million over its first 5 days of release.
I'm coming for everything.
Creed 3 was even further ahead of the first Creed, which made $42 million in its first 5 days. It took 11 days for the first Creed to narrowly exceed what Creed 3 amassed in 3. Comparing the opening weekend of Creed 3 to the original Rocky movies is a bit trickier since those movies were released in a drastically different time. But it's worth noting Creed 3 did nearly 5 times the $12.1 million debut of the 2006 installment Rocky Balboa. Creed 3 was one of the first films released by MGM since Amazon scooped up the legendary studio. MGM and sister company Orion Pictures have released a handful of smaller titles in theaters since the acquisition, including Women Talking and Bones and All, but Creed 3 is the first massive MGM release under Amazon ownership. So the movie's opening weekend made history for Amazon by outgrossing the domestic hauls of every other flick in Amazon history. That includes not just recent MGM and Orion releases, but all other Amazon Studios films, including Manchester by the Sea and The Big Sick. To be fair, many of Amazon's previous theatrical releases were art house fare that never played in more than a couple hundred theaters. You Were Never Really Here, for instance, was never expected to be a moneymaker like a Creed movie could be. So the success of the sequel opens more doors for Amazon. The massive debut of Creed 3 demonstrates that Amazon is capable of launching MGM movies in a big way, and redefines the level of box office success the company's movies can reach. Sports dramas usually need a little time to warm up at the box office. For example, you may remember a little movie called Remember the Titans. That inspirational classic opened with under $25 million at the weekend box office, and still pulled in a sizable domestic haul thanks to positive word of mouth. Most sports dramas aren't big franchise fares, so they're less likely to open like movies that are. This meant that Creed 3, the newest movie in a long-running, storied series, had no trouble scoring the biggest domestic opening weekend in history for a sports drama. It took the crown away from the $35.5 million debut of none other than its own predecessor, Creed 2. No matter how you slice it, it's pretty impressive just how far ahead of all other sports movies the third Creed entry ran in its first 3 days of release. Previously, no sports drama had ever cracked $40 million in an opening weekend, and Creed 3 shattered that mark. Creed 3 even exceeded the entire lifetime domestic hauls of well-regarded sports dramas like Invincible and Southpaw in just one weekend.
Man can only take so much failure.
Michael B. Jordan has been selective about where he shows up, with the actor only headlining 2 other theatrical releases, Just Mercy and A Journal for Jordan, since the release of Creed 2. He's made cameos in other movies with varying degrees of success, including Black Panther: Wakanda Forever on the positive side, and Space Jam: A New Legacy on the other side.
I was just getting some popcorn and then this cat grabbed me.
Except for that one exception, as well as streaming movies like the Tom Clancy thriller Without Remorse, he's generally shown a good deal of shrewdness when it comes to selecting his projects, which has helped keep him from being too overexposed as a leading man. With that in mind, Jordan doesn't have a sprawling box office track record to his name. With the major exception of the first Black Panther, he's never appeared in a movie that cracked $40 million on its 3-day opening weekend, until Creed 3. In just 3 days, Creed 3 exceeded the lifetime grosses of many other theatrical releases Jordan appeared in, such as the 2015 Fantastic Four reboot and Red Tails. While it's clear audiences like Jordan as a presence, Creed 3 blew away all expectations for how big a Michael B. Jordan star vehicle could go. In general, Rocky movies have been holiday season staples. While the second and third Rocky entries each opened in the summer, the other original Rocky movies all hit theaters in November and December. It's a time frame that served the franchise well, especially since the all-ages appeal and uplifting spirit to the franchise feels like the perfect thing families can watch together during the holidays. The first 2 Creed movies also opened over Thanksgiving, but Creed 3 went in a different direction with its March 2023 release. It's reasonable to assume that there was some trepidation about an early spring release, but even if there was, there turned out to be nothing to worry about. March has actually become a go-to month for blockbuster hits, with The Batman finding success in 2022 and Captain Marvel doing the same in 2019, among many others. Release date tradition served the Rocky movies well in the past, but Creed 3 excelling in March proved that it's okay to do something a little unexpected to throw off your opponents. Third movies and franchises are tricky. Unlike a second installment, audiences need a little something more than just this character is back to get them into the theater. That's why many third installments make noticeably less than the second entry in a franchise. Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, for instance, had the lowest domestic gross for any Harry Potter film until the Fantastic Beasts movies came along. And The Hangover Part 3 made substantially less in North America than either of its predecessors. There was reason to assume Creed 3 could suffer the same box office fate as so many other third installments, especially if you consider it as the ninth movie in the larger Rocky franchise. Yet the film's opening weekend showed a franchise with lots of gas left in the tank. Barring catastrophic weekend-to-weekend dips, Creed 3 will have no problem surpassing the lifetime North American hauls of the first two Creed movies, an impressive feat and one that's incredibly rare among third installments. Since Black Panther: Wakanda Forever's massive $181.3 million opening weekend in November 2022, only two other movies have managed to crack $40 million in their domestic opening weekends: Avatar: The Way of Water and Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Of course, Megan and Cocaine Bear proved to be surprise sleeper hits, but there haven't been a ton of tentpole releases to drum up significant opening weekends. That means Creed 3 scored the third biggest domestic opening weekend since Wakanda Forever, and the second biggest single weekend haul in 2023 to date. Impressively, Creed 3 managed the 18th biggest domestic opening weekend for any movie since the COVID-19 pandemic shut down movie theaters in March 2020, with many of the titles that surpassed it carrying significantly bigger budgets and marketing spends. With the original Rocky movies, sequels came out at a rapid pace. Across the first four installments, audiences never had to wait more than 3 years to see where Rocky Balboa was going next. The steady pace ended up backfiring on the franchise, though, when Rocky V took so long to make. A 5-year wait ended up killing the financial momentum of the saga, with Rocky V making drastically less than its predecessors in North America. Rocky Balboa and Creed did fine at the box office despite coming off lengthy hiatuses. If anything, the long wait helped these flicks because they were legacy sequels. A lengthy wait time gave them their emotional oomph. Traditional Rocky sequels, judging by the original films, needed to be made quickly. So one might have guessed that Creed 3 arriving nearly 5 years after Creed 2 could have tanked the Creed movies financially. Instead, Creed 3 once again bucked the trend. If anything, the wait seems to have made the hearts of moviegoers grow fonder for Adonis Creed. Creed 3 was never expected to be a lightweight at the box office, but initial tracking for its opening weekend didn't suggest it would shatter box office records. Pro Box Office reported at the start of February 2023 that Creed 3 was tracking for a $25 million to $34 million domestic debut. On the low end, that meant Creed 3 would have opened considerably beneath its predecessors, though a $34 million take would have at least been ahead of the first Creed. As late as 1 week before its release, Pro Box Office was still predicting Creed 3 would open as low as $29 million in its first 3 days of release in North America. Many industry insiders assumed that there was nowhere to go but down after Creed 2. Just days before its debut, Deadline predicted Creed 3 would take in $38 to $40 million, bigger than earlier tracking projections but still nowhere near what Creed 3 would end up amassing on opening weekend. The sum Creed 3 ended up amassing was more than double the lowest initial tracking figures for its opening weekend. The ending of Creed 2 gave Sylvester Stallone an out to leave the franchise behind.
It's your time.
The film's final moments saw Rocky Balboa finally traveling to Chicago to visit his son, Rocky Balboa Jr., and grandson, Logan. It was a reunion that suggested that, despite all of the turmoil of the past, Balboa could have a happy future with his loved ones. Stallone made it clear that he wouldn't be returning to the role of Rocky in Creed 3 in an interview with The Hollywood Reporter, saying that the tone of the movie was darker than what he would have preferred. Variety also noted that Stallone has bad blood with series producer Irwin Winkler over ownership of the Rocky character, a sign he might never return to the role that kick-started his career. So there was some question as to how successful Creed 3 would be without Rocky on the poster, but clearly it wasn't a problem. Impressively, the film's North America opening weekend even managed to surpass the opening 3-day grosses of every single movie Sylvester Stallone has ever appeared in, with the exception of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. At the end of the day, Creed 3 didn't just manage to survive without Stallone, it's surpassing the box office track record of the man who was long the focal point of the franchise. Creed 3 was the first of an intense slate of movies in March 2023. New installments in the Scream, Shazam, and John Wick franchises are all opening, while Dungeons & Dragons: Honor Among Thieves is also prepped to debut at the end of the month. With so many high-profile motion pictures poised to fight for dollars and the attention of moviegoers in a single month, it's easy to see a scenario where Creed 3 could have gotten lost in the shuffle. Perhaps there just wouldn't be room for a boxing drama amidst all the superheroes and assassins. Instead, Creed 3 opened up with a bang and set a high bar. If anything, the success of Creed 3 puts added pressure on the fourth John Wick to surpass the box office haul of its predecessors. Creed 3 kicked off one of the most loaded months in recent memory with impressive style. Much of the buzz around Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania since its release has surrounded its sharp box office decline, with the feature experiencing the worst second weekend drop ever for a Marvel Cinematic Universe movie. The trend continued with the film's third weekend decline of 60%, which indicates that the second weekend drop was no fluke. Quantumania is being weighed down by dismal audience word of mouth after a solid opening weekend. This lack of staying power is especially interesting to see in comparison to Creed 3, which showed remarkable stamina on a day-to-day basis during its first few days of release. At Thursday night showings, Creed 3 secured $5.5 million from moviegoers, a sizable take that already put it on track for a great opening weekend. Its subsequent $58.4 million debut was more than 10 times its Thursday night haul, an impressive amount of retention indicating that Creed 3 was attracting audiences all throughout the weekend. For comparison's sake, Bullet Train did $4.6 million at Thursday night showings and ended up doing $30.1 million for its first weekend, or about 6.5 times its Thursday night haul. The lack of front-loading in the opening weekend of Creed 3 underscores how impressive its debut was, especially since it was coming hot off the wheels of Quantumania, which had very poor box office retention.